I firmly believe that when you don't have a control over your finances, they are much more in a lordship position of your life than when you do. It has zero to do with loving money and feeling safety and security in a bank account. Scripture is ripe with teachings over financial positioning. And I think when we lord over our money and we say, money, you're going to set this over here and you're going to go to work for me and you're going to go do this, and then we're going to be able to give this and do this mission and this initiative over here. You can't do those types of things when your finances are out of order. And we've lived this. Welcome to the Natural Parents Podcast, where we will cover all things faith, health, family, and wealth through a biblical perspective of putting things in life that matter most back into order. We're reminded in Matthew 6:33, where Jesus said, "But seek first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness, and all of these things will be added unto you." Join us each week as we focus on what truly matters most in this life and passing those values on to the next generation. This is the Natural Parents Podcast with Ryan and Abby Hukin. Ab, why do you think that most families in America, where we live, probably the most prosperous nation that's ever existed in the world, why do most families live paycheck to paycheck?
I think that it's a misconception that we have to spend everything that we make, and we aren't taught from the beginning to set aside a percentage of what we make for savings, for future, for retirement, for investing, all of those things. And it's the same reason that, say you make $50,000 a year and you're like, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I can't do this. I just need a raise. You get said raise, no matter how much it is. Next thing you know, you are still living paycheck to paycheck. And it's because our habits didn't change. Sure. We just got an increase of money and then we spent that increase of money. We never set any more to the side for investments or savings. Yeah.
It makes me think of maybe the premise or the thought here is from the book, Richest Man in Babylon. If you guys haven't read that, it's a pretty neat construct because, the Bible's pretty clear about money and not being our master, right? Jesus says that you cannot have two masters. You'll love one and hate the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And so I think having a right relationship with our money is really important. So I've always heard a lot of successful people talk about this book, and I picked it up and had it sitting on the shelf for a long time. And I think I read chapter 1, and it's kind of set in an ancient, time of Babylon, and it's a different concept of thinking. I remember reading chapter 1, and then I set it down for a while, and then I do that. I got lots of books that I'm reading, but then I picked it up and read chapter 2 again the other day. And the entire premise of chapter 2 was, and it ends with this notion. It starts and ends with this notion. It says, a part of all you earn is yours to keep. And so you talked about that. You said, we think that we're supposed to spend all that we make. And so in the narrative, the guy's saying oh, isn't all I earn mine to keep and do whatever I want with it? And he's like, no, that's not how life goes around. And the Bible's pretty clear. I think there's a rhythm and a flow that the first 10% should be given back to God. We ought to be able to live off of 90. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a neat setup. A lot of people talk about New Testament, Old Testament, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's a decent framework to build off of. Second 10%, set it aside like it's not even there, and then live off the rest, right? Could you not, if you live off 100% of, as your example was, 50,000, which I do think, depending on parts of the country, you could live a perfectly fine life in this world off of that number, then 80% of that ought to be livable too, right? You might have to make a few modifications, but if someone would teach us that, how different would our lives be? And then how different would our children's lives be for the next generation?
Yeah, because a lot of times we think, okay, we have an income. Let me minus my expenses, and then that's what I have for profit.
Sure.
But there are so many resources, so many books, and so many experts that are saying we're doing it wrong. You really take your income minus the profit, and that's what you have left for your expenditures. And, it always feels like, well, if I could just make it big, if I could just win the lottery or get a little chunk of change or get that raise, get that bonus, then I'll have a jump start and I can get ahead. But really the small, tiny, seemingly meaningless contributions and putting away 10%. If you can't do 10, start with 5, start with 1%, something, and getting that habit down. That will become what you are looking forward to, and you find gratitude and contentment in that versus the quick, no thought purchases that are a lot of the time where our profit is
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah, we have an abundance of things and an empty bank account.
Yeah, and it's not even saying that you can't have all that you desire. Mike Michalowicz, is that how I say it?
Mm-hmm.
And he talks a lot about kind of the envelope method, if you will, but he does it with bank accounts, and certain bank accounts can have debit cards and certain don't, but it's for everything that is important to you. You know, it's maybe for vacation. Maybe you send $5 to vacation a time, and, you know, it's for groceries, it's for your dreams, it's for your wants. And then that is how you guide, oh, well, should I spend this on, you know, the new wardrobe that I want? Well, you have $20 in there, so go get yourself a new t-shirt if that's
New
what you
white
want.
tee.
Yeah, and it's a good way to keep yourself accountable and within that limit, but still giving yourself the things that you desire, whether that's a vacation or going shopping, going out to eat, whatever that may be. You can still live your life, but within the means of what you know that you have.
Yeah. Okay, so I feel this even in myself and other people. Maybe other people have put this there. Maybe it's my own backwards or broken thought processes. But like, I feel like, especially in Christian circles, we just start talking about ordering your finances at all. And all of a sudden it comes with this like back of your mind thought pattern. It's like, oh, see, you just love money.
Mm-hmm.
Again, maybe that's a me problem, but like,
I feel like that's true though.
yeah. And so why I think it's so important for us to have this conversation, and for anybody that's listening to stay a part of this conversation with us and have this conversation with your spouse, is that I firmly believe that when you don't have a control over your finances, they are much more in a lordship position of your life than when you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has zero to do with loving money and feeling safety and security in a bank account. But really, you know, scripture is ripe with teachings over financial positioning. And I think when we lord over our money and we say, money, you're going to set this over here and you're going to go to work for me,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to go do this, and then we're going to be able to give this and do this mission and this initiative over here. You can't do those types of things when your finances are out of order. And we've lived this, you know what I'm saying? Like this is real thoughts and examples coming out in our life of where it's like, I said it the other day, it's almost like scales peeled off of my eyes. It's like, oh, wait, profit first. So Mike Michalowicz wrote the book, Profit First, and it was geared towards businesses learning how to set aside profit and then run through all their numbers or, you know, manage expenses accordingly after profit set aside. You had an equation a second ago that was profound, but you ran right past it.
Yeah, it's instead of income minus expenses equals profit, it's income minus profit equals expenses. And so, yeah, Profit First is for like business owners, but he also has a new book,
right. Yes.
My Money Habits.
Yes.
And that is more for your personal finances.
Which is so good. And that's where he's talking about some of the envelope methods and different things like that. But all of us, you know, you can run your home like a business, right? We can say, here's everything that the home, the business brings in, dollars and cents. Okay. So let's set aside two things I think is important are, you know, our contribution back to God. You know, pray about that. That's, you know, it's pretty clear that the Lord loves a cheerful giver. 10% is a decent metric that's set forth. A tithe, that means a tenth. You know, it doesn't, again, there's no religiosity or no rules to that. Just pray about it and see what feels right. But I think that's first. You know, the Lord talks about in the word like first and best. I think that's a good place to start. Come up with that number. And then another one, I think a minimum of 10% is what this book talks about, the richest man in Babylon and stuff like that. It says that, you know, set aside 10% and then live off of the rest. So, okay, let's look. So now what's the 80% in our home? And then how are we diverting that out? Sure, we got mortgage, we've got kids' activities, we have groceries, all of these things. How can we make our life fit in that 80% margin? 10% though in that middle ground, like the a part, all he says is a part of all that you earn is yours to keep. So what if 10% one day you get everything in order, you pay off your mortgage, suddenly your 10% goes to 25%. Now you're setting 25% into different growth accounts. And that was kind of what he's teaching this gentleman in the book. And I don't want to spoil the book because I do think it's a worthy read for anybody that would be interested in learning better money habits and bringing money underneath your lordship, not the other way around. Your stewardship, I guess, would probably be the way better idea to think here. The Lord has entrusted us with 100% of what he's entrusted with us. And so the most convicting thing to me that I've ever heard on this is if you were God, would you give you more money? And so you're saying like, oh, we make 50,000 a year, we make 100,000 a year, 200,000 a year, whatever the number is. And you're like, I just need a little bit more. I just need a little bit more. And we just start focusing our mind on making more without ever getting what he's blessed us with into proper and right relationship.
Yeah, and you're right. It is really just stewarding what you have better, because did you know that we spend about a third of our lives in bed? That's over 8 hours a day that our body should be resting, healing, and restoring. But did you ever stop to think about what we're breathing in during that time? Most mattresses today are made with synthetic foams, flame retardants, and chemicals that release toxins into the air, especially while we sleep. That's why we made the switch to My Green Mattress, made with only clean organic materials. There's no chemical smell, no off-gassing, just a pure supportive mattress that helps your body truly rest and recover the way it was designed to. As a family, that peace of mind is worth everything. If you want to create a healthier home from the inside out, go check out the link in our description. You'll see exactly why we love our green mattress and why we'll never go back. As parents, we love finding natural ways for our family to feel their best, and that is why we chose Llama. They make genuine Baltic amber jewelry for both kids and adults, known for its soothing and grounding properties. For little ones, it's a beautiful natural option to help with teething and inflammation, and for adults, it can help ease tension and bring a sense of calm throughout the day. Each piece is handcrafted from authentic Baltic amber. It's never plastic, never imitation, just simple, natural comfort that fits your lifestyle. Check out the link in our description to shop Llama, natural comfort for the whole family. You know, you say you don't want to make money your Lord, right? Well, so your finances are out of order. You're spending every dime that you make. Money is still your Lord. Amen. Because you're like, oh my gosh, when's the next paycheck gonna hit? Right. Because I feel behind, and you're the anxiety and they can't breathe, sure. And you're snipping and snapping at your whole entire family, versus if you just start to try to gain control back over the situation, control your impulse buying, right? Yep. Control your willy-nilly not being a good steward of your grocery budget or the activities that you guys do, the vacations that you go on. If you just gain control over the situation and start taking care of your finances the way that you were intended to, that is also will bring a calm and a peace. And I'm not saying that that's where it comes from. Like we said, don't hear what we're not saying. We're not saying that that's the finances of your life is what gives you peace. However, you are called to steward what he gives you really well. And that can even look like your finances in your bank account. It can look like the car that you have. Is it clean? Yeah. Do you take care of it? Is there, snacks and trash all over the place? There's no excuse for that. You have a vacuum in your house. You don't have to have a membership to a car wash. Just different things like that. Just stewarding what you have really well to where you feel peace and contentment within that.
Yeah. And again, I think it's so profound. At any point in time, you just stop and ask yourself, if you were God, would you give you more of anything? It doesn't have to be money, more X, Y, or Z. Are you stewarding what he's given you? Because everything that we have is a gift from above. And if he's in control of it, and he's truly our master, and he's entrusted us with a portion, then he needs and wants to see us steward, manage his trust well, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that can come in so many different pathways, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's ever too soon to start encouraging and teaching your kids the same things.
Yes.
Every kid will get birthday money or some kind of income, right? Whether they sell a lemonade stand or whatever that is, and just teaching them that habit of setting aside, saving for yourself, and doing that. But then also you can even adopt in, if your kid's like, oh my gosh, I just want a horse so bad, I really want to save up for a horse, whether that's within that bank account and having designated little groups within there of like horse fund versus savings fund. I just think that those habits are just a great way to lay that foundation so that they don't go into adulthood and they're like, oh, I have like a real paycheck. Let me just buy. Yeah,
absolutely. I think, again, we weren't inherently taught this with any kind of, I guess, strategy, mm-hmm. right? I think we pick up what we're around. And so most of society, most of the previous generation, just American society especially, is just like, it's really rooted in consumerism. Mm-hmm. You're not happy because you don't have what your neighbor has. Yeah. It's the old adage, keeping up with the Joneses, right? And so many people say, well, I don't do that, or I don't want to do that. But for me, it's just been so profound lately that I can't unsee it now, that it's like, oh, stuff isn't at all what I actually want.
Right.
And I don't want, again, as we keep saying, safety and security in a number in a bank account. I just want to feel like, hey, I've got some quote unquote control. I don't mean like a control freak. I just mean like I've got some control over this in the sense that I'm stewarding it the way that I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm convicted that it's not supposed to be spend every dime you got.
Yeah, you're running your finances. Your finances aren't running you.
Oh yeah, that's
just
good.
stealing all of the joy and the peace.
Yeah.
You know, it's was never intended to be that way. And like you said, consumerism. You can't even go into a store where, you know, I could go to a store, you know, okay, let me start this over. If you are like, I'm just going to go shopping. I don't need anything. You know, back in the day, we always just went to the mall, didn't need anything.
Just people watch.
But you come home with like 6 bags full of stuff, right, that you didn't need.
Right.
And that's what stores are designed to do, is to make you want and desire the thing that you didn't even know you needed.
Right.
And so that's just where it's a dangerous thing. But if you keep that in your mind, you know, and know that that's the strategy and the hope, and yeah, that purchase is going to make you happy for the next 2.5 minutes.
Right.
But then you're going to start regretting it whenever you're like, okay, we have 10 cents for this week's grocery budget.
Right.
So,
right. Well, then in our world, where do we pull it from? The credit card.
yeah.
Right. And then that's a super slippery slope. We talked about it last week. And I think some of our conversation last week bleeds over and into the mindset of this week's conversation. It was just like, seriously, getting a better grasp on this, because there's a reason Jesus talked about money more than anything in the New Testament. He knew this world, it really operates under a currency, right? I mean, there's money is weird, but it's paper bills and metal coins, and yet, well, numbers on a screen actually in today's day and age. But there was times where it was trading and furs and, you know, all sorts of, you know, stuff like that, spices. It's what is of value to other people. And so I think it's important for us to have a right relationship with it. And it's really important for us to teach our kids, like you were saying, to get this right. Because I think it's in 1 Timothy, Paul says something to the effect that, like, a man that leaves no inheritance to his children isn't doing it right. Mm-hmm. And that's not, again, condemning. His words are a bit harsh in that, but I don't want to just throw that word and that concept out there, because I've been talking to you about this. You actually said this to me, or at least a version of it. This is like, don't beat yourself up for the lesson that only time could teach. Mm-hmm. Right. And so if y'all are with us in this and you're realizing that, hey, wait, maybe I haven't had the best grasp on all of this and I want to be better at it, and we want to be better with you along this journey. It's like all these things, like don't go beating yourself up because you're not in the retirement position you want to be in yet. Like, the best thing you could possibly do is start now. In fact, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to share more from the story. If you don't want to read, fast forward the next like 2 minutes. If you want to read the book, but if you want to hear about the book, get the Cliff Notes version. This gentleman, the richest man in Babylon, gets asked by an older friend of his. They went to school together. He said, man, I don't understand. Like, why are you excelling so well? You give, you spend, you buy, you do all this, but yet every year you amass and accumulate more. And that's when he tells him, starts the chapter. He said, well, I'll give you this secret, basically, that a part of all you earn is yours to keep. And he's like, that's it? That's all you got for me? He's like, put it in play for a year. If you just do 10% of every single one of your jobs that you get paid for, at the end of the year, you'll have an entire, month's wages, let's just say, a little more than. And so he said, okay, well, I'll try that. And so he goes to work and he does that, and he comes back and he's like, well, how's it going? He's like, good. And then he takes his savings after the year and spends it. He tried to invest it, but he did it incorrectly. And he's like, oh, well, try again. Your money's gone. But the guy's like, oh, well, that, it was disappointing. It was upsetting. His whole, year's worth of savings was gone. But it's like, now he's another year older. He could have beat himself up, all this stuff. He's like, but the habit was there. I had learned to live off of 90%, and living off of 90% in this guy's situation was no different than living off the 100%. It was almost negligible. I didn't even notice it. But then once he had made the savings, then he invested that savings, and now his savings was working for him. Mm-hmm. And so if we can do this, if we can get a good grasp on this and control our own impulses and our own desires and the materialism that rules this world in our minds, then our children can understand it too. And wealth without wisdom is wasted. We don't want to just pass our kids a paycheck whenever we pass away, right? Our kids or our grandchildren. A godly man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Is the way the Old Testament says it. And it's like, that I believe is true. And yes, it can be a material with, inheritance, but it should be a spiritual inheritance too. And that's an important piece. And our role as patriarchs and matriarchs of our families, that all this kind of stuff is what does this affect generationally from now? Is this going to make me happy, as you said, for the next 2-10 minutes, maybe a year? Or is it going to negatively impact my future children's children for generations to come?
Right. And when you're beginning this journey, it can feel daunting. Maybe you have credit card debt or consumer debt or loans that you are like, I made the decision to not live like this. So I feel like those should all just be gone. And I totally understand that. But, wealth really is built quietly. And it's the small actions every day. And so I just encourage you that if that is you, that you are deciding that now gets to be different, you are going to be more in control of your finances. I just encourage you to hang on to that hope and allow that to just put you into wealth building quietly, getting out of debt, and just getting back over your finances so that you can steward them well the way that God intended. From the bottom of our hearts, we want to say thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with someone you know and leave a review. By doing so, we're able to grow this community of amazing people just like you and raise a generation of children that know God and do His will on earth. We'll see you next time.
This is the Natural Parents Podcast with Ryan and Abby Hukin.